Okay, Reish Samech Gimel Seif Hey Tinok Shemet, child, baby who dies. Kodem Shiagia Liot Ben Shmona, before he's 8 days old. Malinoto Al Kivro Bitsur Al Bekane. So the minhag is, halacha is, right? It's not a halacha deraisa, it's more of a minhag, and we cut the bris milah with he writes with a stone or some kind of a sharp weed. Ve'ein mevarchim ala milah. Aval, we don't say the bracha, right? There's no bracha. It's certainly no mitzvah to do the milah. It's just a minhag. Aval mesimim lo shem zecher. We do give him a name, so we remember him. Shiachamu min hashamayim. So in the heavens, I'll have mercy on him. V'yichyeh b'tchiyat hametim. Right? Was we want him to get into Gan Eden. We want him to come up with tchiyas hametim, and it'll be more appropriate if he has a bris milah and if he has a name. And then this way we can also refer to him and daven for him. Ve'ein osin kain afilu b'yom tov sheni shel galiyot. But we don't do this on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov, even Yom Tov Sheni in Chutz La'aretz. The asur lichor b'Yom Tov and nefilim. It's asur to bury stillborns. Afilu the taltel asur, even to move it. It's asur. The asur lamu goy shelo l'shem gerut afilu decho. And it's asur to circumcise a non-Jew unless you need to for the purposes of converting. Because in order to convert, we're going to learn soon that one of the requirements of conversion, right? There's three main actions, or we'll call it 2.5. We'll see soon. Besides Kabbalah's mitzvahs, one of them is getting a bris milah or a tafat brit if they are already circumcised. We'll get there. But if it's not for that purpose, it's asur to do a bris milah. A bris milah is a special oath, covenant, a brit between us and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people, and we're not supposed to share it. And it's a zilzul. It's inappropriate for ours. It also can confuse other people to thinking that maybe they are Jewish. So those are the reasons that it's not allowed. Right? It's asur midarabanan, and some of the reasons why it might be mutter is the main two reasons that I've seen is either for financial, for schar, it's mutter, and or if it's mishum eva. Those are the two reasons that I've seen. I've also heard, I'm not sure if it's valid or not, but I've also seen for the sake of getting experience. So that is that might be another reason why it's mutter. Yes, exactly. It's a Jewish moel. He's allowed to take money for it to circumcise a non-Jew, and that's when it's mutter. It's for your benefit. Then we say it's mutter. They are only siman reish samech dal. Mi ra'ui lamu ubameh malin v'keitzad malin. Aleph hakol ksherim lamu afilu eved isha v'katan v'arel Yisrael shemetu echav machmat milah v'im yesh Yisrael. Here, let's start. Let me first translate. Everyone is kosher. The following are kosher to do a bris milah on a baby. It could be an eved, right? An eved kanani we're talking about. It could be a woman. It could be a minor, katan, below the age of bar mitzvah. It can be an arel Yisrael. It could be a uncircumcised Jew who died. His brothers died, and therefore they're not doing during when they got the bris shortly or because of the bris milah. So therefore, he is never going to circumcise himself. Such a person is still allowed to do the bris milah. Yesh Yisrael gadol sheyodea lamu hu kodem lakulam. But obviously, but a proper, normal, circumcised Jew comes first. Okay, Haga. So we see all those are kosher. V'yesh omrim the isha lo tamul v'chen noagin lahadar achar ish. And the Rama adds that some say a woman is not allowed to do it, and therefore we prefer not a woman. not a real big machlokas there between the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. They both prefer a man. Aval, goy, afilu hu mahu lo yamu klal. But one should not allow a non-Jew to do the bris milah. That one should avoid at all costs. V'imal ein sarich lachzor v'lamu pa'am shenit. But if a non-Jew did do it, then it works. The milah was done. It was cut. It is the orla was removed, and he's no longer, he's a ben his whole life. He's a ben nimol, and he's not an ara. Okay, so you lost that on the bracha. The mitzvah wasn't done the ideal way it's supposed to be done, but b'di'evid, it's kosher. And and you don't have to do anything else. Do you have to do hatafat brit on the last case? So haga, v'yesh omrim, right? This we're talking about the case of a non-Jew doing it. The other cases, everyone says works b'di'evid, and you don't have to do hatafat brit. The case of a goy who does it, the non-Jew, the chayavim lachzor ulahatif mimenu dam brit, v'chen yikar. Some say no. For that, you need to do hatafat dam brit, and this is the ikar opinion, and this is even according to the Shulchan Aruch. The Shach points out, based on from the Beis Yosef, that one should do hatafat dam brit. Now, regarding a woman, so the Taz says that we don't see that a woman is shayach and doing a bris milah. We do see a story, obviously one of the most famous stories by Moshe's wife, Tzipporah. So she did that, but that's a question what you can learn from there. Wherever we learn the hilchos of milah, we don't see it where a woman have any shaychus to it. That was the case of Tzipporah was before Matan Torah. And so it's a question how to deal with that. Anyway, that's the machlokas rishon.
What's the machlokas? Whether a woman can do milah?
If a woman is allowed to do a bris milah. You know what? I'll just stop right here. Short question story from that same shir from Aryeh Leibowitz. He asked, this does come up once in a while, a female doctor. She's in the hospital, and she's involved giving birth or whatever. The family wants her to do it. So obviously, we're not talking about a from family, usually such a case would come up. So the question is, should the female doctor who's religious, should she accept to do the bris milah? So she can't accept it if they want it done. Normally they're going to want to do it on the first, second day before the baby leaves the hospital. So that she can't do, right? We have to wait until the 8th day. That should be obvious. So let's say they're willing to come back, or they want her to do it in a home. Can she do it? So you pointed out that problem is if you think that they're going to use a non-Jew to do it, and before the 8th day, so he says, Mistama, the woman should do it, lechatchila. In that case is pishat atchak, so it becomes like lechatchila for her. Normally, we wouldn't have a woman do it, but if there's no choice, she is certainly kosher to do it when needed, and that would be preferable for her to do it than to end up having a non-Jew or done on a different day. One of the things that come up, we're going to get into it more, but it was just tangential, so I'll just point it out real quick. When a milah is done in a hospital, they want to do it so that it's idiot-proof and it's at least bleeding as possible. And what's often used in a hospital setting is a clamp. Instead of just having a shield, a magen, that covers where you slip the foreskin right through before you cut to protect it. So it's impossible to touch the end, the head of the penis, the glands, the atara. That protects it, so it's impossible. Nothing goes through but the skin. But they use basically the same idea, but instead of having a 1 millimeter slit for the skin to go through, it closes it completely, and it basically crushes the blood vessels, so that this way it's a much cleaner cut. When you cut, there's not much bleeding. And depends how long you put the clamp on. If you put the clamp on very quick and cut, you'll have more bleeding. If you leave it on longer, you'll have less bleeding. So there generally is bleeding. So mi'ikar adin, so many are against, many, generally, the poskim are against it, or very much against it. It's not the minhag Yisrael, and the main problem is, well, we're going to see, there's a few issues. There's cutting the Milah, the Orla, and the Priya together. We're going to talk about it soon. That's the least of the issues. The bigger issue is Sa'ar, the Yanuka, pain for the baby. Because when that clamp is done, it's very painful for the baby. I think they even have tests, like with the brain waves, to show that it is very painful. I mean, I'm sure we could all imagine if you get a paper cut, usually you don't even feel the cut happening at all. Anytime you have a quick, smooth cut, you generally don't feel it. You feel the sting afterwards. But when you have when you get pinched, wow, that hurts. So that's the difference. When you do a cut, you generally don't feel it. We assume the same thing by shechita. When you do a smooth slice, you don't feel it, or minimal. But when you're doing when there's the clamp, so that's very painful. So that's the biggest problem with Sar Dinukar. Moshe, Nigros Moshe speaks about it. Others speak about it. So it's definitely not recommended, not the way to do it. But it's still kosher. And it's better that than to have a goy do it on the first day. So that's, but I don't think they have, I don't know, but I don't know if they have a choice in the hospital to use it or not to use it. Probably depends on the hospital.
To do it,
If there's no, good question. Moshe asked if there's no bleeding. So that's a problem. That is an integral part of the bris milah. Do you have to do a tafas dam bris? I don't know if
for safety reasons.
Netzitza, we're going to get to, is done because of sakana, because it's healthier to have the sucking and pull out a little of the blood. At least that's what was thought. So dam bris. So I believe, I can't say for sure, but I believe all or most poskim would say you should do a tafat dam bris, but that's what I believe without seeing it inside. This is a good question. I don't have any sources for that. Mumar l'kol Torah kula. Person is a mumar for the entire Torah. Oshahu mumar la'arelot. Or he's just a mumar when it comes to being an arel. Dino kegoy. He has a din of a goy. For the purposes of, the Shach points out, hold your horses, we're talking about for the purposes of Milah, we give him a din of a goy, that he shouldn't do it. And if he does it, then we do hatafas dam bris. But a mumar for an arel is not normally considered like a non-Jew, right? That's because that's just a mumar l'davar echad. Tinok she'utzruchu lamula toch shmona mipnei hasakana. If for whatever reason there was a baby that needed to have a bris within 8 days because of a sakana, ein chiluk bein Yisrael lagoy v'kol toch shmona lo mikrei milah. It doesn't matter if the doctor is Jewish or not, or the one who's doing the bris milah is Jewish or not, if it has to be done within 8 days, because halachically, that's not a milah. It wasn't done. Okay, and so still we would do. Now that actually we mentioned before is a machlokas. It's actually interesting. What did the Ramah say from the very beginning? Just to compare, Aleph. He writes, Ava Romal Balayla Tsarich Lachzor, but Malu Toch Shmona Ubayom Yatsa. Here he writes, Ein Chiluk, Ben Yisrael Agoy. So therefore, the Shach points out, the simple reading, it's a stira. So therefore the Shach says, in Reish Samach Bet, he holds it's good, but you still need to do a tafas. Amaisa, we would do a tafas dambrit. Mio. Im nisharu tzitzin hama'akvin hamila oshamal velopara yigmar Yisrael hamila lishmona. If there are tzitzin hama'akvin at the mila, or one did a mila and he didn't do the priya. We're going to explain this more in Gimel. You'll understand this more. So you have parts of the mila that are me'akev. Part of the oral remains, so we say the mila wasn't kosher, it wasn't finished. Or you did half the bris milah. You basically did milah velopara. That means you removed the double layer, we'll explain. You remove the outer orla layer of skin, but not the inner layer of what we call the priya. So then, or priya, Yigmar Yisrael Hamila Lishmona Ula Achar Shitrape. So then say if once whatever you're going to finish to do, right, and this is on a deraisa level, which is integral part of the Milah, then you would wait to do that portion, right? If you needed to do part of it for whatever the reason, then you did it on the first day if it was an emergency of sakana, but you will hopefully have or whatever's left, right? If then you save that portion, if it's tzitzin, if it's part of the integral part of the Milah, you save that for the 8th day or until he's healthy, right? Well, the case is a case of sakana, so it's likely you're going to have to shelo bizmano. Yesh la'adam lachzor ulahadar achar hamoel ubal brit yater tov v'tzadik. A person should always, whenever they pick a moel, you want to try and pick a well Yoreh Shamayim, an experienced moel, a good one, and it's tzaddik. V'im natnu le'echad asur lachzor bo. Once you choose a moel and you designate him, you can't go back and switch who does it. Miu im chazar bo have chazara. But if you do go back, then it works. You're allowed to, it works to go back. Yeah, it doesn't have a taina on you. Ve'ein moel bazeh kibul kinyan. And just because you would you decide to use him, it's not a kinyan. It was only words, and therefore you don't have to. We say kinyan dvarim ba'almahu, and therefore there's no contractual obligation. You don't owe him anything, but you're not supposed to.
Means even if he did a kinyan sukkah with him.
Aval im nishbalo kofin oto she'kayim. But if you made a shavua that he's going to do it, so then we force him. If when he chose somebody, he would have chosen somebody else. But the moel that he wanted, he thought was not available. It wasn't in the city, it wasn't available. So therefore he chose moel number 2, but he really wanted moel number 1. So then he sends together.
He calls up the second one.
Right.
But one didn't come. He's not coming.
I don't know why you're adding the time. Ubetoch kach ba harishon. And once you choose the second guy, then the first guy shows up, right? So Yemalenu Harishon. You're allowed to let the first guy, whether the whole story happens 5 minutes before the Milah, or I think it's the same thing if it happens 7 days before. So then, Yemahalenu Harishon. You're allowed to let your number 1 choice, even though you asked number 2 first. The Vadei lo chazar min Harishon. Because he never changed his mind and gave it to the second guy first. He really wanted his first choice to be first, but he wasn't available. So that's not a problem where we say you're not allowed to change. Right? Isha ena yochol litain la'acher lamul deharei ena shaycha b'mitzvah lamul et bena. A woman, she can't choose who the moel is going to be. So ena shaycha b'mitzvah lamul. It's up to the father. So let's go on to bet. The kol malim. With every instrument, one is technically allowed to do milah. Whether it's stone, ubis chuchit, or with glass, ubachol davar korekt, anything that's sharp and cuts. Chutz mikromit shel kaner, but you shouldn't use the what's it called? Like a leaf. That's bamboo is hard, so we're talking about something that's hard, but we shouldn't use something like that. Lefi shiksamim nitzim mimena. Because if you use that, sometimes splinters come out of it. Karut shivcha, and it can end up damaging the aver and make it so he can't have any kids. Mitzvah min hamuvchar lamul bebarzel, and mitzvah min hamuvchar, the best thing to do is to use metal, whether bein sakin bein b'misparayim, whether it is a knife or scissors. And the minhag clearly has always been only to use a metal blade, a knife, and except what's often done at the very end, after the main milah is done, So then to remove extra little pieces of soft tissue, the skin, a little extra, or tags to make it look nicer, or even just for the halacha part to make it kosher, that afterwards it's very common that the Moalim use scissors. It's easier, and that's what's usually done. Okay, fine. We'll do the next. We'll actually discuss the actual cutting itself.